So Emma, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That's great.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Obviously, we've been friends now for a couple of years, and from when we originally got in contact to then sort of where we are sitting here today, there's been a whole host of people that every time I sort of bring you to one of our events or bring you online or we do something together, everyone goes, wow, this is incredible. And life-changing these days gets thrown around a lot. But It's amazing how something that all of us just do every day, but do without thinking, when actually applied consciously, can be so life-changing, really. So for people that are listening to this right now and they're going, okay, right, well, I breathe every day. How is breathing consciously going to make any difference and actually do anything different to me? Let's just sort of imagine someone's never heard of Wim Hof breathing or any form of conscious breathing. Let's just start with that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, very interesting question, very broad to try and bring it down a little bit from top level. It's just, you're right. I get that a lot. I breathe every day. Why would I want to? Is one thing. But I just think that if you have something like life-changing or things are coming at you and you're very emotionally reacting, then it will lead back to the breath. I think if anyone, even in the spiritual world, goes seeking or is seeking for a different way or finding another way, or even the people that I've helped recently can't sleep at night. They've tried everything from the doctors, they've got bad digestive problems, back pain and stuff. And they're like, I'll do anything. If this breathing thing works, then I'll try it. So there I get the cynical people as well. So it reverts back to the breath. So whenever you inquire, you're going to lead back to the breath anyway. So however you get there, one of your places will be the breath and the importance of that, because that you can, exactly like you said, is automatic, or you can actively control. So it's the way to go into the body, into the physiology, and start changing it pretty instantaneously. The biochemistry that changes from a good breath really, really can settle the body is pretty instantly. So if you're going to do the breath work, i.e. with the Wim Hof or any other, over 10-20 minutes, you're going to have that profound feeling and emotion and physical change. So it's awesome.
So before we go into how you got into this sort of world in sort of a very deep way, and you certainly live this as a lifestyle now, don't you? I mean, very much how I sort of live personal development as a lifestyle. You live the whole conscious breathing and bringing in the commitment and the cold therapy, cold exposure, everything. You really bring it into your lifestyle. Before we go into that, just for some people that are maybe wondering, what are just some of the benefits? I know you mentioned sort of sleeping. What are just some of the benefits and challenges that people can overcome if they apply this work, before we go into how you got into it?
Yeah, sure. I think it just brings awareness to why am I reacting like this, for anything that's sort of coming. So I'm bringing awareness can change your narrative in the future. So if you do it a lot, then you can change your story to it. So not everything's happening to you. Sure. So just by taking a quick, deep breath can bring everything down lower. So you're not always in. So a shallow breath could be considered hyperventilation, if you like. So a lower breath will bring it back to the parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, and just that calming. So even that one deep breath in is enough to calm you and make you react from a different area of your body than from your head. So it helps with sleep, as I said before. That's a biggie, actually. Both any kind of breathing or the Wim Hof as well. Energy levels, it really helps boost your immune system, which is pretty important right now from what I'm hearing from the news and stuff like that. There's natural immunity there, and we've all got that within, if you know what I mean. So and then the other thing, mental focus, clarity, because it kind of especially with the Wim Hof method, it can sieve out the mental loop that you have, or the self-talk that's not so positive. And when you're in the cold water, or when you do the breathing, you think less from the neocortex area, and you go back to the limbic system and the mammalian area in the brain. So that kind of levels out the blood flow and makes you have different awareness and then react differently, if you like, or become the observer. So for me, it's you're right. It has been life-changing, because it's been one of my keys, the key to unlock a lot of things that have been inside me, which I did not know. So it was a nice serendipity to find. And it's one that because it works so well for me, I can be like, a rabbit down a rabbit hole. I could just go down and find out more. And the more I found out, it was ancient practice. And it's super fascinating, the psychology of breathing now, and how people respond, and why people come into it. I just, and it all goes down to the why. Why people wanting to change, why people seeing what they've not seen before. And the breath is certainly one of those tools that can facilitate a positive change.
Yeah. I don't think there's a single person on the planet that if you said to them, look, I'm going to give you a pill and it's going to boost your immune system, it's going to increase your energy, it's going to give you better sleep, and it's going to give you better mental focus and clarity, they wouldn't say, right, where can I buy them? And the beauty of this whole process is it costs nothing.
Exactly.
Costs absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. It is even from the breathing class that I teach, if you could have all these benefits and it's prescription, why would you not do it? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. So nowadays you are one of only a handful of level 3 Wim Hof trainers in the world. In fact, you're the only British level 3 trainer in the whole of the UK, right?
Yeah, that's as far as I'm aware. I've just got promoted, which is nice.
Congratulations, which is sort of an invitation. It's not just something you can just work through and you just study and you get there. You actually have to be invited to be at level 3, right? That's the only thing from Wim. So massive congratulations for that. You're a certified breath coach from having studied with Belisa, Vranich, I understand. And yeah, sort of you, like I say, you really do live this whole lifestyle. So that's now. So let's just take us back to before this was even a thing for you. How did you end up doing this? Because I know you personally, people listening to this now, they have no idea who you are. And I think it's always interesting for them to hear how you got into doing this work and the profound insights and learnings that this work did for you.
Yeah, so just very briefly, because my story is out there. My story's not very romantic, actually. So I had a massive wake-up call 2015 that led me 2016 to search for a different way, the way I was living my life. And the big wake-up call in 2015 allowed, instead of like blaming everyone and not knowing what I did wrong when, and it kind of led me for the mirrors to come down and the reflection on me. And I really didn't like what I saw. So I was compelled to change. So I was just listening to a load of podcasts and audiobooks to try and find another way that wasn't perhaps very conventional at the time. And it was one of the podcasts, actually, if I could say the Rich Roll podcast on here, he interviewed Wim Hof, and we did some simple exercises. Well, I did some simple exercises. It felt like I was engaged in the conversation. So when they were talking about it, I was doing the conversation, I was doing the exercises, and it really changed my opinion on what I was thought to be true. And it was really key because at the time I was thinking I had the foundations ripped from underneath me, or what I thought. And there was a lot of unraveling in my life, a lot of confusion at the time. And so it was a really good kind of pinpoint of something that I can do and what I know to be true. So it was fantastic to do these simple exercises. And from there, I decided to buy the 10-week course online, the Wim Hof. And then from there, I was compelled to go and meet the man himself in Poland. So I was the participant in Poland. So Poland is his winter travel, and it's his flagship.
So just to jump in at that point, sorry, just really quickly. So what was it when you listened to the podcast that made you think, I'm going to explore more and go and do this course? Because we all listen to podcasts, we all hear things or watch them on YouTube and whatever, but there was obviously something that you say that gave that shift. What was that thing? What can you remember what that moment was?
For sure.
Wim said?
Yeah, for sure. It's super clear. It was about, well, like you said rightly when you introduced it, breathing is automatic, but also conscious breathing. And I didn't really know that you can tap into it consciously and change your cellular chemistry at will. So by doing the simple press ups that Wim does, and it's out there, I felt the feeling. So I'm a very kinesthetic learner, so I have to feel to believe kind of thing. So when I did the push-ups for the second time around, I felt the difference between anaerobic and aerobic respiration at cellular level in me. And I was like, wow, I can't believe it. And it's a very powerful thing that you and I have used that exercise. It's like the low picking through, or the quick win, to just get people to wake up and start thinking, my God, there must be another way out there. So for me, it was a massive light bulb moment. It's like, wow, I did not know this.
So just for people that are listening or watching this right now, so the exercise, if you just explain what, because obviously I've done it and I've experienced it, but we're not going to do this exercise now on the podcast. It's going to take too long. But if you could just explain to them, and then they can maybe Google it and go and do it and experience it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So the exercises, first of all, you just do some push-ups, and there's different style of push-ups for your capability. When you do the push-ups, don't worry about the form or anything like that. Just go down and do them. The simplicity is the better of almost not knowing what's coming. So you just do the push-ups, and you do it until you're tired, or you pause in the push-ups. And then next thing you do is 30 active inhales and passive exhales. This is where it confuses people. Last breath fully in, fully out, and you do the fully out.
They do part of the Wim Hof method breathing, basically.
And then you hold on the exhalation, and then you go back to the push-ups. So you do the push-ups on a breath hold, and then obviously when you need to feel, you breathe in. So the next inhale is when the exercise is over, and you just see how many you did before when you were breathing normally, and then how many you do on the exhalation breath hold, and just see how many you do there. And it's fascinating to see the results and the feeling you get from that.
I can say from personal experience, I mean, I think I did, the first time around I ever did this, I did like 35 press ups normally, sort of usually, as I would expect, sort of big deep breath in, holding it. And then when I did this process, obviously you do it without any breath, right? So you breathe all of your air out, so to speak. So then you're doing press ups with no air, which most people would think is crazy, because normally if you're ever going to dive underwater and do a long swim, you normally take a big deep breath in and hold your breath, don't you? So do it with no breath in whatsoever. I think I did like 48 press ups or something. It's nearly 50% more without this. And that was when you go, wow, this has taken me less than a minute and I've just improved by 50%. Well, not everyone's 50%. Some people do more, some people do less, right? But it gives an idea of what's possible.
Exactly. And that you hit the key spot. It gives an idea of what's possible and what you were led to believe. Have you tried it? Do you know what I mean? So whose fear is on you? Someone else's, oh no, that's not possible. But have you tried it? So it really kind of expanded my mind to how I was thinking. And it was the momentum to change, actually. So that was a massive key point for me. And it's almost like a disbelief, because when you breath hold, I didn't think I could do any. So to do more for me as well, like you, it was super fascinating as how did that happen? And I felt good. The main important thing is I felt good afterwards. So
you went and did your 10 weeks online. And
well, actually I did 6. I got to 6 because in the online thing, they were saying when you do the Wim Hof breathing, you can see colors, you get tingliness, and you have this really, really good sensations that if you're curious, it's fantastic. And I wasn't getting any of that. So, and it was at the time I heard some very, very bad news. So I wanted to go to Poland to be broken. Hence my way in was not very romantic. I had a lot of self-loathing of myself at the time. So I went to Poland to feel broken because I could go up in the world.
When you say you wanted to be broken, do you mean what you wanted to happen was to be fixed? Or
well, that's interesting. I think from all the podcasts hearing of people's incredible inspiring stories, everyone hit their rock bottom, and from their rock bottom they started to change. So I wanted to hit my rock bottom because I was feeling I'm exhausted and I really need I need an up. But what I didn't realize that I hit my rock bottom a year before, and I was already going up, but wasn't realizing that from what I was seeking and how I was starting to change, and and things like that. So Poland was the whole kind of self-love kind of realization. Is like, oh, the fact that I've got here is an improvement from last year, and I was still having that defeatist, negative, push down kind of attitude to myself, but actually it was a self-narrative that I changed in Poland, and I didn't realize that until I got there. So.
And what was special about Poland?
Intense. It was nothing I've ever experienced. I didn't know what I was going into. In fact, one of my friends here in Cumbria, because I live in a national park here in Cumbria, is like, why would you want to go to one national park to another national park in Poland? It's like, and be colder. And I was like, yes, I know it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but I just feel I have to go. So what's so special about Poland? The bonds that you meet there is very unique. You meet Wim Hof as well, and you just learn another way.
Yeah. So you went there, and what was profound that happened for you in Poland?
Yeah, ironically, people think it was the cold water because the Wim Hof method is comprised of 3 pillars: the breathing, the cold water, and commitment. So we went there to learn about that. And the irony, it was the breath work that changed me. It wasn't the cold. In fact, the cold I didn't get until the last day. That's how stubborn I was, or how resistant I was to change physically. But in the water, but the breath was the one that opened me up, like now I've got a lotus flower on my leg. It's like it opened me up one leaf at a time, and it was just a very beautiful unfolding, or as I say, the unraveling of just changing things biochemically, and the feeling when I came around from the breath work just changed slightly. I didn't need to know how. Like sometimes I now, as an instructor, I always say the breath is very intuitive. It knows exactly where to be in your body, and I truly did experience that back then, and I still experience it now. So it's good to let go of the rationale intelligent and just let the body do its thing, and see what happens. And that's what the breath allowed me. So the first day, sadly, I was crying my eyes out because it was quite an emotional release. In fact, I was pretty much crying every day, and I was probably the worst participant there because I was just always asking questions. Why do I have to do this? Things like that. But and they were very good at holding space that allowed me to grow into my own. So yeah, I was nervous, facing my fears, facing a little bit of anxiety, not knowing what to do next. But really weirdly, the stability and the foundations were growing more and more stronger because I was looking within for more answers, and I found that through the breath and the cold. So up here, I was like a spinning top, but the bottom was starting to grow broader and thicker. So it was a beautiful transformation.
Wonderful. And I'm right in saying, wasn't there a bit of a story about you on the last day going up the mountain as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was.
Because I know something. I've got to pull out the golden nuggets for the listeners. So.
So I always call it my monkey brain now, because I've sort of read a few books. So my monkey brain was able to stay in the water and just cope with it. There's a difference of going into the water and grit and determination, and a difference of going into the water with surrender. They're 2 very important keys to move forward in life. But so the Wim Hof method taught me to surrender and to let go. But when you go into cold water, you brace up and go, I've got to. But actually, if you put the shoulders down, relax, and just become like the water per se, or just to have no boundaries and just acceptance. So that was a bit I was kind of missing. It was a mountain that made me realize surrender and acceptance. We went up. It was pretty cold. There was 3 points to the mountain. So we were kind of heading up in amongst the trees. And when we got onto the flat, it was really exposed. And it was the worst weather. So I think someone blogged about it saying it was minus 17 degrees or 70 kilometers per hour wind. I just remember being on the outer with the wind. And at some stage, I don't have much hair. I've never gone on a ski trip per se where I had my hair frozen in this direction, had white eyelashes, white hair on my arms. Bearing in mind the men were bare chested, I was wearing obviously a bra and shorts walking up, and the wind was blowing me.
It's minus 17. It's 17 mile an hour winds. You're walking up a mountain in a bra and shorts.
Yeah.
As a form of commitment of basically putting the whole method to the test.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's your average Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Well, it is now for you, but
yeah, pretty much. It was, and the best thing about it is that I didn't know when it was going to end. So in the water, we had the timed and things like that. But on the mountain, you just didn't know when to end. So for me, it was like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours of just having to learn the practice. So the only thing I could control was my breath, really, and my response. And it was such a beautiful moment where I just kind of surrendered to what is. And it was amazing because when you surrendered, when I was on the mountain there, I didn't feel the cold at all. I felt the warmth come through, and it was really serene. For me, it was a very peaceful moment. It was group started to panic, but I actually found that I finally got this, and I finally sort of found my way. So we didn't make it to the top that day, the summit, because the weather was too bad, and everyone went into the restaurant, or the ski restaurant that was up there. And it was then that I sort of went around the group and just checked on everyone. It was probably my medic skills from the brief army appearance that I did. And I, as a typical female, I bought 3 jackets, 3 hats when I went there, and they all went out to the guys because they were feeling cold. And when my instructor said to me, "Are you not going to get changed? How are you feeling?" And I'm like, "I feel great. I feel weirdly fine." And he just said, "Well, this is the look I've been expecting to see on your face all week. You know, like you've almost found your inner fire." I didn't know what that meant, but I was so happy that I found something that in me just changed. And I remember having such a huge grin going down the mountain. We were fully clothed as we went down the mountain, and I just realized I've been looking at life completely differently. As Wim said, and I didn't really register it, life is for living. Like, it really, really is. So
how differently, when you said, so I've realized that I've been living life differently. So what was the shift in that moment as to how you chose you were going to live your life moving forward?
Yeah, I think I just let a lot of stuff go. A lot of stuff that wasn't mine, but I didn't realize I was holding on to, if that makes any sense. So I kind of like say I give everyone's bad gifts back. I don't quite say as nice as that, but you know, the things that were coming to me, I would used to just absorb it. And so now I would realize, oh, well, maybe that's you and I don't want to change you, but I've got enough of my own stuff to change and to realize. So my outlook was super positive afterwards. And I'm not saying about the toxicity of just having a positive life and just ignore the suppressed stuff that's going on. I'm not about that at all. It was just more that my narrative changed to a different way. So when things are coming, like I feel coming at me, maybe they're coming for me so I can learn, and eventually I learn that. Maybe I can sit in that sadness now, let it go through me, and then from there go from a different thing. So I don't reject any low sort of feelings or stuff. I sit with them, let it brush through me, and then I can go from it. So all the past stuff, change that kind of instantly, because it was not mine anymore to hold on to. You know, like people have their big shadows and stuff that follow them, and it kind of influences how they think today, that they don't realize it. But only when you know, you're like, oh, why do I think like that? Oh, this hurts. Why is it? And it's not necessarily the conversation that you're having. It's probably something of fear back in the past that's made you think like that, shut down in that, and then bring it forward as your reaction today. So all that I'm learning to unpick.
Love that. There's a few powerful words that you said, and you mentioned one word quite a lot of times, which was surrender. And there's a fantastic video, and it's about the 4 stages of a spiritual awakening. It talks about sort of that life happens to you, by you, through you, and as you. And it's Michael Beckwith whose video is only 5 minutes on YouTube. And I've always been someone that makes it happen. You know, my company's called Make It Happen, and it's about going out and doing things. And I was always really in that really masculine energy of like, no, we're in control. We can change everything. And then one day it dawned on me that all pain is created from holding on too tight, you know, and if you let go and have absolute trust and faith that life's happening for you, then it changes. Now, there is a caveat to that. I truly believe that you've got to live congruently to your values, because if you don't, then all of those negative emotions are just signals to get you back on track. But what you said there is to let go and to surrender, and the method and breathing, conscious breathing, is a way, the breath work that enables you to be able to respond differently. Because a lot of people are just trapped in this way of thinking or acting. Because let's face it, the body is holding on to 95% of our emotions anyway. You know, emotions we've been having for years and years and years. And it's a process of enabling that to happen, changing that biochemical reaction.
Absolutely. For me, the Wim Hof method was a practical way from all the podcasts that I was listening to, because you're almost like, how, you know, and people find their own vessel to release the emotions, if you like. So the Wim Hof was my vessel, if you like. It was my tool, my key. So it was a practical and no bullshit way to do it.
Well, exactly. That's what I think is beautiful about it, is that particularly if people do start, if they have gone through significant pain, I mean, the best way I can explain it is that if a lot of people that have gone down this spiritual journey that weren't necessarily spiritual before, it's because they've experienced some sort of physical, mental, or emotional pain that's sort of taken them on this journey into this sort of next way of living, if you like. And it's not all woo woo, but a lot of it is like people think, well, you got to go and find yourself. You got to go traveling. You got to go and sort of sit and meditate up a mountain. You got to go to loads of yoga retreats, go and spend 10 days in India. But this is a science, isn't it? And this is what I really like about it. For me, I'm obsessed with finding the science. I am extremely pragmatic. I'm extremely logical. So I want to know a process. How can I replicate something over and over and over again? And this is what Wim Hof method does. So you touched on the 3 pillars. So because Wim Hof method, I know now, isn't the only form of breath work that you teach and that you live by. So let's start with the Wim Hof method and go into the 3 pillars in a bit more detail and maybe explain a little bit about that to the listener, and then we can go on to the other side.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, so Wim's a Dutch guy who's broken, I think, more than 26 world records now, all to do with initially cold related and breathing. So he claimed that anyone can do this. He was not the superhuman that he's been made out to be, so to speak. So he did some tests with a group of participants at Radboud University, and they found really positive results that by doing the Wim Hof method, which is this type of breathing, going into cold, which they trained in Poland. And then the commitment is super, I think it's a fantastic word, because it's commitment to do the method, commitment to go in the water, commitment to breathe the 3rd, the 4th round, because your mind can wander around. So whatever commitment means to you, it's the glue. It's the glue to the other 2 pillars, or the commitment for the life change, or just to share love, whatever that, as I said, whatever that means. So for me, the 3rd pillar is the mastery. It's not quite, and this is what I love about the Wim Hof. It's people can be brought in by the science, which happened in that study, which was very positive. And then from there, basically, it was scientifically endorsed that the Wim Hof method proves enough doubt to the conventional way is perhaps not like this. This has raised from this, you have spin-offs from other science studies and stuff like that. So he injected people with dead bacteria, E. coli, and basically they combated that. They didn't have any signs of first stages of the E. coli in their systems. I think one person had a mild headache but no fever or anything like that. So it was really, really positive. So it wasn't just Wim, it was the participants as well. So that was enough the breath work can influence your immune system, or by going to the breath work, it can change your endocrine system, your digestive system, and everything like that, which was all kind of relative, and the ancient yoga techniques, everyone knew that, but this has now brought it to the 4th, like I believe Wim Hof method, or Wim, was the gate opener for breath work and yoga practitioners to walk through with kind of kudos that there is something behind it. So which I think is fantastic. So I always say, a little bit of diversion at the moment, if Wim Hof method isn't for you, then please try another breathing practice, or try something else that's considered holistic but is actually quite, it's quite good for the body. There's a reason why it's been around for a lot of years. And actually yoga used to be about breath work. I know now it's about these positions and everything like that, but it came from breath work. So that's been adapted to the Western society, but the Eastern society is learning as a breathing class. So go back to perhaps someone who resonates with you, which is more about introducing it with breath work and ending it with breath work. So Wim did this, had this scientifically endorsed, and from there it's spun off into other directions. So most people come because of the science, but they leave with something else, which is fantastic. And I've seen that in so many people. I came with something else and I've left knowing more about the science, if you know what I mean. So because breathing for me is a paradox. Sometimes you just can't explain it, and that's okay too.
I think so. I've had 3 experiences, two with you that are really profound, and one other, which was in ice lake swimming with my friend Ed Pearson, and it was at -5. But the one with you when we went to Sheffield, so I had a one-on-one with Emma, and we were out in Sheffield somewhere in this I can't remember how cold this water was, about 3 degrees or something.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
In about February time, in this what do you call them? Those sort of,
I call it like cascades,
pools.
Actually, the ones that we went into. Either cascade pools or just little rock pools. But deep enough to go into.
Yeah, it was deep enough to go up to my neck. I mean, I'm a short guy, but it was still pretty deep. But before we did the breath work, what I found was I thought I was going to really enjoy the cold water exposure. I love a challenge, So for me, it's when I do Tough Mudder most years, it's like Arctic Anema. I'm like, you're in that big pool of ice, and it's like, oh great, I can't wait to get into it. Some of my friends absolutely hate it, but it was that I was really looking forward to. But it was the breath work that I found most interesting. I remember that particular time when we were out in the woods and we were doing the breath work, and I don't know what happened, but I just went somewhere. Like I felt so relaxed. I haven't felt that relaxed ever. And when you come back, you're like, where did you go? I was like, what do you mean, where did I go? I've been sat here, but just sort of in terms of, for the first time in God knows how long, I felt like I actually switched off. It's like the deepest sleep ever. And that's something I assume a lot of people experience having done the work, right? So that was one of them. Another one for me was when you came down to Essex and we did the workshop here, and it's really powerful when you do it as a group, and we had 15 people in the room, and I felt like I had an out of body experience. So I'm laying down and it felt like I was just floating a couple of inches above my body. Is that a normal thing
it can be. Everyone obviously has their own experiences and perception of it, but yes, I have heard that before, and I also have felt it, and it's fantastic when that happens.
And then the cold water exposure, again, this wasn't one that I did with you. This is just one I did with a friend. But I remember swimming, and I was in this water. It was about 4 degrees for about 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden I just felt that I was about 6 foot above where my body, again, really, really weird. But that's a little bit about the Wim Hof method. So moving into, in fact, let's touch on the cold water exposure thing as well, because there's one of my facts that I love about this is what it's the equivalent to for people.
Yeah, I heard that in Poland. So the breathing in the water, let's just clarify, is different to the breath work, the Wim Hof method breath work. It's different types of breathing. It's a different type of breathing. It's super simple. It's just about longer exhalations, because the exhalations encourages your rest and digest, and you're calming. So when you go into the water, although it's a very seen as a controlled stressor, because you choose to go in, so it's not so controlled stressor, and you'll respond with your rest and digest, so it's longer exhales. So with the so what was the question again? I just sort of had to clarify that.
I know that there's when you go into cold water, it's the equivalent of
voila. So I heard in Poland it's 2 minutes in ice water, which we say 4 degrees and below, is equivalent to a 40-minute run. So I heard that a lot when I was in Poland as a participant, and I was blown away by that. I don't know whether there's a specific study about that, but it was mainly the vasoconstriction, vasodilations of your arteries, capillaries, and your blood vessels, basically. So the blood vessels can go about 3 times around the world. It's super powerful, compact in your body. So going into the cold water really is equivalent to a 40-minute run. So I was like, wow, that's 2 minutes in ice water. This saved me 38 minutes. I'm back then in those years, it was called biohacking. It probably still is now. And I was like, wow, I'm like biohacking. And I saw biohacking with Ben Greenfield, all these like trendy people. There's no way I could be that level, because you've seen their bodies and seen their commitment and determination with their diet and everything like that. So, and then suddenly I'm in Poland. I find myself in Poland, and I've just biohacked 38 minutes out from my life. So it's like, whoa, what am I going to do with those 38 minutes? So it was kind of a cheeky revelation that I literally took to another level, if you like. So what more can I do?
Yeah, and as well as the biohacking, I think what's really important to understand is that doing Wim Hof method or conscious breathing, like we said before, it's great for your immune system. It's good for sleep, mental focus. And for you personally, obviously on a spiritual level, it was great because you were able to let go a lot of baggage and move forward, which for most people, one of the biggest things that's holding them back is emotional baggage. But it's a great tool for peak performance, right? I mean, Wim's gone and done, I think you said 26 world records. You did something which was pretty unique for yourself as well, right? So what
on the back of that? Yeah. So there was 2 things for me. The first one, when I got back from Poland, I think the politest way I could put it, that Poland was pretty intense. I felt like a washing machine that was in a spin cycle, and I just got spat out. Like, what the hell? What do I do with my mind and my body now? But it was a positive, just being spat out. So bearing in mind, I didn't understand the word surrender till the last day, and then the next day we got the plane home. So I was just like, whoa, what did that just happen to me? But on a high. So I decided that the things I've been putting off in life, I'd just start to do. I had the time back then because of my job in Cumbria. So I decided to walk the Camino in January in short. So those on the Camino de Santiago is literally walking I went to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France, walked across the Pyrenees, and then walked all the way to Santiago, which is across northern Spain. Took me 31 days, 1 day off in Lyon. And I did most of it in shorts. So probably 80% of it in shorts in January. And for me, that was, and I also did cold exposure. Every river that I went to, or had to cross, I went in the river. And then there was only one hostel that didn't have any hot water. So I then had a further cold shower. So that was the day I was like, whoa, this is way too much cold. But it was, my towel was soaking wet. But on that walk, I had the biggest backpack. So I think metaphorically and physically, I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. And by the time I got to Santiago, I just got rid of a lot of stuff, mentally and physically as well. And it was such a change, because what I did was apply everything I learned in Poland on the Camino. So that was 31 days. So it changed my way, made a new habit for me, if you like. Yeah. So I did the breath work, I did the cold exposure. By the time I came back to Cumbria, I felt so good, and my body was amazing internally. Like, it felt so strong. I really was in tune, that I decided to run a marathon and an ultra marathon with no conventional training. So all I,
because walking the Camino, a lot of people go, wow, yeah, that's some achievement, but I would never do that. That's out there. Whereas a marathon,
people can put a marker on it.
So people train for months to do a marathon, and you just decided, and having not really been a runner either, right? You weren't really a runner.
I was ex-army, so I have ran, you know, in my.
Yeah, you've ran, but you're not. It's not like you'd never run, but you wasn't like four runs a week running.
No, I hate running.
You don't run. So, and then you just decided using the breath work and applying. So the point I'm trying to make here is, I just want people to understand that this is a tool that's hugely beneficial for peak performance, you know, and really become aware of that.
Yeah, because that changed me to more efficient breathing. So it's not about how much you breathe, it's whether you breathe efficiently. And that was a changing point in my training, if you like. So that's when I just discovered other breath works other to Wim Hof. So Wim Hof was my foundation, because the cold is equivalent to a 40-minute run. So I did 2 times in the cold, 2 minutes during the day. So I was like, whoa, I think my maths was totally bad. So I thought I did like 1 hour and a half running. And I figured a marathon will only be another hour and a half. And I thought, well, the army, I was sort of running for 20 minutes. So I've got like an hour run. And that's all I had in my mind. I've only got to run an hour. Everything else has done the training for it. So naive or whatever, I'm not quite sure, but it was still a nice positive outlook just to run for an hour of hard work. So I did that. I realized that the breath, when you do the breathing, I didn't realize that you engage your diaphragm. So the diaphragm, I didn't realize, was the most underused muscle in the whole body. So it made me think about that a little bit. So all my breathing exercises were mechanical to engage my diaphragm. I also knew from the push-ups exercise I did some 6 months earlier that I needed to stay more in aerobic respiration rather than anaerobic respiration, because anaerobic gives you muscle fatigue and lactic acid. So I didn't want to hit the runner's wall or anything like that. So I tried to stay in more the oxygen or the aerobic. So I knew by closing my mouth and breathing just through my nose, I would stay more aerobic. So, I mean, there's lots of things going on in my mind of how I was piecing it all together. So I just figured, wow, if I just shut my mouth, breathe through my nose, and during the 5 weeks training that I've got, I will just exercise my diaphragm, because that will increase the strength between my nose and my diaphragm, and I can only run as fast as my nose. So my new brain was my nose and my diaphragm, rather than my ego and my head going, well, I should run faster because my Garmin watch says, you know, or whatever. So I was very much in tune with how I felt, and I was running very rhythmically to my breath. So I didn't hit the runner's wall. The endurance is really easy for that, because it's a steady eddy pace. If you can maintain that steady eddy pace, whether you're undulating or not, then that's a good thing, yes, for endurance. So yeah, I applied all that to the marathon, along with the power of now. Happy days. You know, it was like the most interesting run I've ever done. I smelt the wild garlic when I ran round and listened to the trees. I mean, nutritionally bad. You know, I didn't do anything because I didn't know about the nutrition side. So I really wanted to run on mental focus.
That's really is an incredible feat. It really is. So I hope you've enjoyed this part of part 1 of the podcast with Emma. What we're going to be doing is in part 2, which you can go straight in and listen to, we're going to be talking about different breathing techniques and also how you can apply some conscious breathing. Right, what I'm going to do, because then it just makes it easier for me when I edit this in a minute.
Yeah, cool.
So what we'll do is I'm just going to go straight into going. So you mentioned breathing techniques, and then we can talk about vertical, horizontal breathing, talk a little bit about the Belisa Vranich stuff, and then some practical stuff, and then we'll go from there.
Just, you can call her Dr. Belisa, because I can't pronounce her surname either. So Belisa, Dr. Belisa.
Dr. Belisa. Okay, cool.
That's enough. Yeah. Awesome.
So you mentioned breathing techniques, and I'm right in saying there's a few different types of breathing techniques. And I don't just mean Wim Hof. I mean sort of there's different types. You want to just elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So like going back to my sort of training for my marathon, and so the Wim Hof method allowed me to unlock myself, I suppose. But from there, I was just more curious about what else is out there. So I never left the Wim Hof method. I mean, the Wim Hof is a lifestyle for me. And but what I found when I was searching was Dr. Belisa. She was quite revolutionary for me in the sense that you change the mechanics of your breathing. So she made me understand why I was breathing dysfunctionally in my life. And I think when you know your why, you can change it. So the Wim Hof was all about, wow, I'm feeling the positive effects now. Wow, I'm letting go of a lot of what I call my past trauma or past pain or whatever, which I didn't even know I was having, by the way. So that enabled me to speak my truth and to hold my space. Whilst Dr. Belisa enabled me to go back and unpick certain key things where, you know, when you're told off when you're a kid and you go, I hate you, I hate life, and you see where my shoulders are open like that. This is over exaggeration, of course, but then you get sent to your room, and then you go in your room and you go and sit there and you really, you know. But most adults in life don't unpick, don't go back. So those little bits of telling off, or those little bits of insecurity, those little bits of unlove, those little bits of things like that, all start to brace you. So there might be some key places in your childhood that you feel it, and you can then go back to it. But understanding that and not allowing it to pass you in life can lead you to become more vertical breath work breathers. What Dr. Belisa pointed out to me is that 9 out of 10 people are dysfunctional breathers every day. Wow. And that was so powerful that when I became a Wim Hof instructor, I was seeing people's breathing were not good during the time they weren't doing Wim Hof. So it really bothered me, and I care a lot. I just wanted to try and change. This is great. So 20 minutes Wim Hof breathing and going in cold water is all very well and good. It changed my life, and there's nothing more I could say about that. That's a big fat full stop on that. But what if you can change your breathing when you're not doing the Wim Hof? That this was my evolution, if you like, in my own practice. So I would like now for people to have amazing breath work throughout the 20 hours that they're awake, and then have even more amazing, deep, profound breath work in the Wim Hof when they choose to do it, because they both complement each other. They're very different, which is why I like, because I don't want anything else to be the same as Wim Hof, because there's only one Wim Hof method. So this for me is a very good complementary, symbiotic relationship between the two. So you sort your breathing out during the day, you can have an even better Wim Hof breathing session, you know, and it just fitted with my way as well. So and that's what I found fantastic, and it's super easy and really different. So it's just about 10 exercises that you can do that changes your mechanics. So you engage your diaphragm. So when you breathe in, you expand your diaphragm, and when you breathe out, so you inhale, you expand, exhale, you narrow. And they're things that I did not realize you have to do at all. So for me, it was another massive game changer to activate your diaphragm. So all the exercises are diaphragmatic, and it's also a workout. The reason why I got oblique muscles through when I started my marathon, my ultra marathon, I never had oblique muscles at all. I've been looking for them in my 20s, never freaking found them. And then from 5 weeks of breath work, I had started to have oblique muscles in, and it was amazing. Like the shift of the physical change just after 2 weeks is amazing. So imagine doing it for 5 weeks.
So when you say sort of 9 out of 10 people are dysfunctional breathers, then that's what we're talking about. Mainly, they're not using their diaphragm effectively, which means I'm right in saying that would be like a smaller percentage of oxygen getting into the lungs.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So when this was a study in America, so I assume the UK is not so far behind, with that. So so basically, when you inhale, and most people are shallow breathers or light breathers, or they inhale and they use auxiliary muscles. They go like that, and so it's like. Yeah, so they're using auxiliary muscles which are not for breathing anyway. They're only breathing in the top 2 ventricles of their lung capacity. They're not breathing down into the bottom 2 ventricles. The bottom 2 ventricles are where the oxygen rich it should be, so it diffuses into your circulatory system. And if it's not going down there, then your body's inefficient or dysfunctional, if you like. So basically, these exercises bring the oxygen lower, like it does with the Wim Hof, fully in. You bring the oxygen lower, so it can diffuse out into your circulatory system.
And a simple way of explaining that to people, if you say to most people, right, take a big deep breath in, you see most people puff their chest out rather than push their belly out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because belly out is very untrendy, even for us women.
You can't push your 6-pack out and still look good, can you?
Exactly. So even like, this is why I say to people, take a deep breath in. I start the class with obviously just checking in with the breathing. And then I say, just take a deep breath in. And they look at me puzzled. And then I get the camera out and I said, take a deep breath. And then they automatically stomach in, they inhale, stomach in, chest out, look good for the camera. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the exact opposite to how you should be breathing.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. That's why it's no one's fault. Sometimes it's society. But what's more alarming, what I've learned, is that kids change their breathing, or children, I should say, change their breathing as early as 5.5 years old. And that's shocking. So you're getting a lot of people, if they start changing at that age, you can imagine what us adults are like.
If you ever watch a baby sleeping, like baby lying on his back sleeping, you literally see the belly go up and down.
Yes,
because
beautiful.
it's just automatically, naturally, using its diaphragm.
And if you look at any other baby mammals, they also do the same. Like the puppy, if you have a dog or a cat, they breathe in and out the belly. Like you almost think so cute when you want to squash the belly down. It's just that fluffiness. So yeah, so every other mammal, and we were as toddlers breathing congruently to our bodies, if you like. So we were born to breathe this way and we want to breathe this way, but somehow as early as 5.5 and going into our adults, we change it to the complete opposite. So that's called paradoxical breathing. Paradoxical breathing, where you breathe in and you breathe more into the chest rather than going down into the diaphragm. And it's the exact opposite to how you should be breathing, which is very alarming. So I was a paradoxical breather. Maybe, I'm not perfect just because I'm this breath coach and I do Wim Hof. I'm not a perfect breather. So maybe I go into paradoxical breathing when I'm not thinking about it and I have an emotional reaction. So my response is like, whoa, that hurt. How am I breathing? I'm like, and then I bring it lower. So I'm that tuned into to that now. There are my new key questions is, how am I breathing? Which is what I'm starting to share now. But when you don't, and then you bring it back to yourself. But so I can flutter into different stages of hyper tension or hyper vigilance and things like that. Me too, even though I'm aware of it. So don't beat yourself up if like you can't. Now you have to be seen to be as a perfect breather. Not the case. So because we're all human.
So I think we've hopefully now convinced some people that conscious breathing is beneficial. I'd like to think in what we've been speaking about. So for people that are listening right now, obviously we can't do a workshop per se on the podcast. I suppose we could, but just time constraints are going to limit us. So what are sort of a few practical things that people could do to start to make changes and experience some benefits now with their breathing?
Okay, so a little like well, there's one exercise which isn't the Wim Hof. The Wim Hof one for me would be the push-ups. Yeah, to realize. So that's like a light bulb moment for anaerobic and aerobic respiration inside, even though there's a hell of a lot more going on than that, because the Wim Hof method it flexes your adaptive systems, if I can say that. So it's like an elastic band and just stretches that. So it makes you aware of anaerobic and aerobic, parasympathetic and sympathetic, blood pH, neutral, acidic, alkaline. There's a hell of a lot going on in one breath work of the Wim Hof method. Carbon dioxide level is going down and the oxygen, and it marries up. And I don't know any other breath work, obviously scientifically proven as well, that does that. So the Wim Hof method stands alone as a fantastic tool to do. But what I discovered with the Dr. Belisa one, the simple exercise there is just blowing out a candle. It's as simple as that. And I'm like, that also blew me away, just blowing out a candle. But of how I wasn't doing it efficiently. So this is where you introduce efficient breath work. And when she described in her new book, Breathing with Warriors, it's all very well being this ultra athlete, but if you are not efficient with your breath work, then you can improve. So it gives like pros that more advantage, if you like, for being more efficient. So it's not about the amount of air you take in, it's about the relationship it has with the carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide is good for the hemoglobin to give up the oxygen molecule to feed the cells. Okay, so there's a positive relationship between the two. So this introduces the positive relationship by mechanical. Whilst the other certification I did do is the oxygen advantage with Patrick McGowan. So he also introduces the chemistry of it as well. So it's such a fascinating thing, but just know that the practical side that I got from all that is to close your mouth when you're doing some cardio work, which is super interesting. Because when you're out there doing your performance, then you can do whatever you like. But when you train, it's best to train at 80% with your mouth closed, and that will give you that air hunger, because most people are CO2 intolerant at the moment, especially with maybe it might become apparent.
You mean CO2 intolerant?
With the fact that you're afraid. So when you basically, a quick test is normal breath in, normal breath out, hold your breath. And how long can you hold your breath for? And if you can't hold it for very long and then you go for breath in, you need to increase that hold for a longer while than perhaps what you're doing now, because most people feel panicked when they exhalation and hold. And that to me indicates CO2 intolerance. So you just need to build that up a little bit more. With Dr. Belisa, the fantastic thing is just blowing out candles. So what you do is blow out a candle. I don't know if you can see my belly. I just put it a bit lower. But basically, when you blow out, you've got to push your belly button to your spine, so you narrow. So you're just focusing on the exhalation. So just to remind you again, inhale, your diaphragm expands. Exhale, your diaphragm narrows. So it's just basically a simple exercise.
So for not everyone's watching this on YouTube right now. So for people that are just listening to this, what you're doing, you've got a handout in front of you, directly in front of you,
which is my pretend candle,
which is a pretend candle,
and
then you're just blowing with your mouth. So as you're blowing out, your belly's going out. Breathing in.
No, the other way around. So as I am inhaling, actually, I'm not even thinking about the inhale. I'm just thinking about the exhalation. So the exhalation, my belly narrows. So my belly button goes to my spine. So it's like, so you breathe out from the belly. So
if I'm understanding this, because I'm doing this at the same time. For everyone that's listening, I'm doing this as well. So obviously, if you're doing this, if you're driving, don't do it. But so I've got my hand out in front of me, and I'm breathing in. And where should my belly button be going? Should it be going nearer my hand or nearer my spine?
I would focus on the breathing out. So exhale. Don't worry about breathing in, because this is to explain to paradoxical breathers that they're paradoxical breathing. So you focus on the exhalation. So the exhalation, you breathe out. So you blow when you're breathing out.
As I'm blowing out, my belly button sort of coming in towards my spine.
Voila. Yeah.
Right, I can really feel it coming out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so really weirdly, learning how to exhale and narrow. The key is the exhalation. So learning how to exhale and narrow, you activate your intercostal muscles, which you just felt, and your intercostal muscles as well. So it's the inner.
I can definitely see how you could get abs doing that. I mean, I'm never doing crunches or sit-ups ever again. I'm just going to do that. People are going to come crazy in the gym with my pretend my pretend candle, but I won't be the crazy one when I've got the six-pack.
Exactly. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Also makes you feel lightheaded.
Yeah. So if you used to do that for what, 30 rounds, 20 rounds, how long would you?
I normally say do it for your age to begin with, and just see how that is challenging for you. So
if you're 100 and listen to this, you've got the short story.
Then you'll be in the pro athlete type thing.
Okay, so, and doing that, and then people might experience feeling lightheaded, and what is their experience?
It indicates that the carbon dioxide and oxygen ratio isn't efficient during the whole day, if you like. So basically you're getting rid of the stale air that's in your lungs, because if you don't move that cycle around, because if you're just shallow breathing, sipping air, not breathing when you're texting or on the phone or, you know, or computer or whatever, and it's always up here, then the lower bit here isn't going to get recycled. So it basically, if you fully exhale, you're getting rid of all the stale CO2 coming out, so you've got room for fresh new oxygen to go lower. Because when you do that candle blowing thing, which is for me it's a game changer out of all her exercises, is because you automatically stick your belly out when you go for an inhale. And that is the new key, or the awareness, like, wow, I didn't realize I was breathing wrong to begin with.
Yeah.
Because it's an automatic thing.
So basically, if you feel lightheaded, it's a good thing. It's an indicator that you're not.
It's an indicator
enough. Yeah. And what you're doing is getting rid of some stale air, which means that you're replacing it with more oxygen, which is better for your cells and so on and so forth. So that's one really good practical thing that people can do. Let's just explain. So I know we touched on it earlier on in the episode, but let's just touch on what the actual practical part of what people need to do the press up exercise, the Wim Hof press up.
Yeah, sure. So for the Wim Hof one, you just get on the floor, or if you've got a bad back, then go against the wall, but just do press ups or sit ups. I don't know if you're American or English, but yeah, press ups, sit ups. Do that until you feel tired, or you pause or whatever. Then realize the awareness. Why are you feeling? Most people are puffy cheeks, maybe red. You know, they've got probably the fatigue is either in your muscles, your shoulders or your arms, or maybe your abs, depending on what you're engaging in during that exercise. But you get muscle fatigue in the big muscle groups in your body. Then you take a breather, go back to it after 30 deep breaths of the Wim Hof.
So when you say of the Wim Hof, so let's just explain
fully inhale. So belly rises, then the chest, and then let it go. The letting go is like a sigh. It's best to describe it as a sigh, like, you know, like
not breathing all of your air out. It's just almost like,
yeah. So it's a sigh, passive exhale, gentle exhale, letting go, or 60-70% air out. Yeah. However it work, whatever those descriptions work for you.
And to explain that to people, the reason that they're doing that is because I'm right in understanding that by having like a big deep breathing, big belly breath, chest breath, is that we're sort of over supplying the body with oxygen, right? And only get a little bit of carbon dioxide coming out, and then more oxygen, and we're building up the amount of oxygen in the body.
You're building up the amount of oxygen. Yeah, you're right, in the body or the lungs, I would say, because it doesn't get diffused into the body until you're on your retention time or your push-up time. The reason why we're doing that, because it's controlled hyperventilation. So you're actually sending your cells in your bloodstream into hypoxia. It's to exercise your adaptive mechanisms in that sense. So you wake up old systems that wouldn't generally be awake, which is why you do this. So active inhale, passive exhale. The last breath is fully in, fully out. And like with the candle blowing, like, you know, fully in and then fully out. And the reason why you go fully out is to expel all the carbon dioxide in your lungs. So the next one is fully in. So all upper ventricle and bottom ventricles are filled with oxygen. And then you exhale, hold, do the push-ups. So basically you're drawing all the oxygen into your cells by doing the movement of the push-ups, but it's all aerobic.
So just want to clarify, because I didn't understand this when I first did this. So you do the breathing, then you breathe out, then you breathe in again, then you breathe out again. So you're doing the press ups with no oxygen in your lungs, or I say no oxygen. There will be oxygen in your air in your lungs.
No air in your lungs. So exhalation, hold. You're right. Yeah. So exhalation, hold.
You go through and you do it. So there's your challenge. So there's your two challenges. And the third thing that you can get people to do, and this is again something just to, I suppose, to get people to be more mindful of, is breathing in through their nose and out through their mouth throughout the day, rather than using their mouth.
In through the nose and out through the nose. Actually,
that's
close your mouth. Which is super.
That's what I meant. My bad. This is why you're the expert and I'm not.
No. Just actually, ironically, with a mask on, it's better to breathe through your nose. You know, actually, I'm not going to talk about masks, but the nose is the most natural filter you can have. You know, it's antibacterial, antivirus. You know, breathing in through the nose anyway. So this is why we should breathe in through the nose anyway. You know, it's designed for that. So the irony when you're wearing a mask nowadays, when we go out in public, or in the UK anyway, it's better to close the mouth and start switching through the nose. for the reason that it engages your parasympathetic. So you're more in the rest and digest, you're more calm, because you are going to feel like suffocate, maybe, depending on how you are, but it's just a more efficient way to breathe. So I get it that the mask might cover and you want to breathe through the mouth. Yeah, I totally get that. But I think for someone like me who started this a while ago, breathing in and out through my nose, regardless whether I've got a mask on or not, I just feel a lot calmer, a lot happier, and I'm good within. So yeah, and if you want to practice, probably the best thing is to tape your mouth at night and try it at night, because at night you're going to be in your rest and digest. So another useful takeaway is tape the mouth. There's that microball pale thing that you can put over your mouth, so not the big hardcore that your moustache is going to come off in the morning or whatever, but it's good to tape the mouth and just try whether you can sleep breathing in and out through your nose. If you feel that panicked or that suffocation or the whole world's coming on you, automatically your hand will go and rip that off and then you'll go back to sleep. Okay, so there's nothing to worry about. You if it's uncomfortable, you will take it off anyway, but just try and sleep with your mouth taped and through the nose. I know that's horrific if you're sleeping with someone else and you've got this tape around you and you look at them and they're like, so I get that, but just try that, and it might give you some better sleep in the long run to do that.
So this is, again, as it always is, extremely insightful. I love the knowledge, the experience, and the wisdom that you've got around this topic. Truly is fantastic. So if people are thinking, yeah, do you know what, this sounds like a really cool thing, I'd love to come and give this a whirl, how can people connect with you, find out more about you and the workshops that you run and the various things you're up to?
Yeah, sure. So I too am evolving now. Now that I've got these other two sort of breathing techniques as well, so I can do it online. Yay! So I don't actually have to be present with regards to an ice bath and be there for you. So with the Wim Hof, obviously I can't really do that one online per se. I can watch someone go in a shower or whatever. It'd be a bit weird, but I haven't quite mastered that one. So I run workshops here in Cumbria. They're day workshops or private group workshops, or I feel the calling for 2-day retreats. They're more. And they're actually more, I think the world is going at the moment. So you can really switch off, switch on, and you learn a lot from the 2 days. So my 2 days retreats are a sellout at the moment. So that's fantastic. And it's just one step up from the day workshops that you get. You really get to engulf that, and it's all transferable, that you can go home and do that. So that's that. Also with the breathing class, I can do that online. So it's learning, as I said, about certain breathing exercises or diaphragmatic exercises. So I do that online, and so you can just contact me and reach out for that, and it's just an hour of your time. Initially it'll be an hour and a half, and the next will be like a check-in. So it's not so much like, it's a good commitment, and it's a good commitment to change your out. I've got a very good testimonial from a person that you referred to me, actually, is that he just said, I'm at my wit's end, I'll do anything, I'll even freaking breathe, that. And I was like, okay. So, and then he's come away like glowing. His skin is better. His attitude is amazing. Like, not that it wasn't before, because he was willing to do something like this. But he has noticed the change, and he can't believe it. And that is just from breathwork, online breathwork. So yeah. So contact me. I've got a website, Instagram. Or you presume you're going to put the details?
Yeah, I can put the website stuff in the show notes. But for people that are maybe driving, the website is.
Oh yeah, so it's www.emmaestrella.com. My Instagram is emmaestrella79, and my Facebook page is Emma Estrella. So please contact me. Please reach out. I'm really happy to answer any questions, because for me the key is breath work, and especially with all the respiratory fear and everything that's going on, I think it's really important just to educate yourself on how it can benefit you. Yeah.
Brilliant. Love it. Well, Emma, it's been fantastic as always. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And again, if you found this beneficial, Emma does hang out in the Make It Happen community as well. So join the Make It Happen community Facebook group, and you can also ask her any questions in there. She'll no doubt respond once you've tagged her in that, or I can tag her in it. But
yeah, totally.
So Emma, once again, thank you very much. And for you
You're
that's
welcome.
been listening, I'm sure you found this beneficial. Until next time, make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast. Make sure you join Will's free Facebook group, the Make It Happen community. Please support the show by subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud or Google Play. Share this episode with at least one friend you think would benefit from it, and give Will a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Until next time, make it happen.